how's it going? So we're out in the studio today. I just put together this fairy garden, and it was a really fun one because it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. I was walking past one of our flower beds on my way to the kitchen yesterday, and I saw a bunch of these maple helicopters, that the seed pods that the maple tree drops. Not just like one time of year. It drops them all year long, which kind of is annoying to me. I really wish that it would just drop them all at once and we could clean them up and be done with it. But this tree, it's right by our back sun porch, and it's the most brilliant, in fact, I have a picture of it. I think we can put it on the screen. The most brilliant fall color. It's just bright yellow and gorgeous. But the seed pods do kind of, I mean, they make it everywhere in the garden. It's like the only maple that gets helicopters in our garden, yet I find them in every single one of our flower beds. Anyway, as I was walking by, I thought, you know what, those kind of have a cedar shake quality to them. I wonder if I could put together a fairy garden of things that I can find out in the garden right now, which we still have quite a bit of snow on the ground, and it's really cold and windy out there. Super thankful for the studio in particular today, because it's frigid. So I just started gathering some things, and I made this little house first. I just sat at the kitchen table yesterday and thought, well, can I even do this? We'll see what happens. Let me grab a terracotta pot as my base and then cardboard as the roof. And so anyway, this is what was born from it. So we decided that today we would try to film one to show you guys how you could put one together if that's something that would interest you during these cold winter months. It's a really fun project, and it only took a couple of new houseplants that I picked up at the garden center. So it's fairly simple, really. So I thought I would walk you through all of the steps, if I can remember them all. So first off, I grabbed my terracotta pot and turned it upside down, and then I grabbed a piece of bark, which I saw a stump randomly in one of our flower beds when I was poking around. I don't even know what it's from. It's from something that was removed prior to us being here. So it was out of the ground about this far, and as I kind of dug around it, I could see its layer of bark, which was fairly thin, and because of all the moisture, it's really pliable, so it's really easy to curve to your container, which was nice. So I cut that to a door shape and then glued it on, and then I used one of the helicopters. I just clipped the end off of one and used it as a door handle, which I kept on this little guy right here, but this one I ended up taking it off because it didn't contrast the door enough. You couldn't really see it, so I used a different branch on this one. And then I started gluing moss on, which if you live in an area where moss naturally grows, then you can go harvest it yourself, or if you live near the woods or something. We live in high desert, so no moss grows here. So I happen to have a sheet of moss that I got at Joann's a long time ago, and it was already like kind of on, it was like table runner style, like a long piece of it. I still think you can get it, but it was very nice because I was able just to cut little pieces off and kind of mold it around how I wanted to. And it has little pieces of artificial fern, so it makes it look even more natural. But that certainly you could use, bulk, like super moss, what's it called? Sheet moss. You could certainly use sheet moss if that's what you have on hand. And then what did I do? Oh, I used some hydrangea branches because I did harvest some hydrangea to use the little blooms, little dried blooms in the arrangement. But I just tried to find a couple of the branches that were naturally curved so that I could cut them and shape them around the door. After that, I grabbed a couple of rocks from our driveway. Actually, I grabbed way too many. I grabbed like 3 handfuls. I needed like 3 rocks. So I hot glued the rocks to each side just to create a little bit of interest. A few little branches from the birch that I got one out of the tree, and the rest I gathered from the ground that they had already fallen. And then I've got some hydrangea blooms in there, which I harvested both a pinky winky bloom and a limelight bloom, and they both have kind of a different look to them. And then I also had a few straw flowers, which I only used one, but I harvested them from our cut flower garden last year, and I just have them in a big tub. So I grabbed a little one for a tiny bit of color. So after the body of the house was done, I needed to build the roof, which is really easy to do. All I did was grab a little piece of cardboard, cut it into a circle, no particular size. It'll be different depending on what container you use, what size of container. And then I cut just a straight cut from the side of the circle to the center, and then just started kind of manipulating that cardboard and making it soft and a little bit more pliable so I could glue it into kind of more of a cone shape. And then I just started gluing the helicopters on, and I did it in layers so that they kind of have that cedar shake appearance. I did cut that thicker pod off the end, so I glued them on, and then I'd slip I used my new Falco snips, which were awesome for this project, but I would use those to cut the thick part off so that I didn't have any issues with these laying flat. And then when I got to the last layer, I left them so that it kind of came up in this little twisty, kind of neat, different texture up here on the top. It looks more finished that way, I think. And then I just set it on the top, and I kind of played with it until I liked the way it looked. And then I'm not sure if we got it on camera, but I did pick up the roof. I put a big old thick thing of hot glue around the top of the pot and then stuck the roof back down on there so it's stuck to the house. It shouldn't go anywhere. So to put the actual fairy garden together, it's really simple. I have this container from Unique Stone. It actually belongs on a base. It's a little boy holding up this pot. It's called the Charleston Boy. I put together a succulent arrangement in it last year, and we moved the succulent arrangement, just the container, into the greenhouse, and I meant to look at it really thoroughly before I brought it inside because it was planted very thickly and I didn't want any bugs to make it inside, and I forgot about it. So occasionally that happens, an arrangement slips through the cracks and it froze, which was sad, but it did open up the opportunity to create another fun thing. So that's where the pot's from. I use regular potting mix in here. And then my plants here are ZZ plant, which are super low maintenance, or really easy. And then I do have a fern, which I don't have great luck with this type of fern, but I can water them somewhat separately because they are on either side of the pot. So a little less water on this side, a little more on this side. I can position this side a little bit more toward more light and this one toward more shade. But we'll see how it goes. Sometimes you put something together that seems like an odd pairing, and sometimes it works. So anyway, I think it's nice and simple, and I just really wanted the house to be what shown. I don't know, like I had to, is that right? Is that the shined?
I'm not sure.
Shown, whatever, you know what I mean. I had to fight against wanting to put a ton of stuff in here, and Aaron's like, no, you always put so much stuff in there, and then we don't want the detail of the house to be lost. So the plants went in, the house went in. I put some mulch down on top of the soil so it'll keep this nice dark look. And then I did make this little lantern. I don't think we filmed that part, but it's just birch branches that I twisted on the top to create a little loop. And then I used a little pod off of our golden rain tree as kind of like the light that hangs down. I wish there was a way I could put a light in there. That would be so awesome. The fence is just little leftover pieces of birch branch. I just cut little pieces to put in, and then I glued some flexible pieces on the outside. And then I had like little moss leavings on the table, and so I would put a little dab of hot glue and I would just kind of sprinkle the moss, like the leftover moss, over it just to kind of mask that hot glue look. But I've got that on both sides. And then the last little piece right here is the walkway, and it's just birch branch that was a little thicker, so I cut little sections and then cut them in half to create kind of our little like pallet plank kind of walkway. And it's nice that it's so much brighter in color than the mulch. It really shows up. So that's pretty much it for this fairy garden. Super fun. I kind of want to try out a few different shapes and sizes of pot. I've got lots of different terracotta pots. I've got like some that are, you know, the tall and skinny, and then some really miniature ones. It'd be fun just to go outside and scour the garden and just look for neat seed pods and things like that to create some different roof looks and different, I don't know, I think it's kind of limitless. If you are in the mood to be creative and try to think outside the box a little bit, you can really come up with some fun stuff. So this fairy garden will probably end up down at the garden center. Sometimes we keep them around here, and I'll keep them for a long time. Occasionally we'll take them down there either to let them just sell it if they want to, or we'll just leave, if it's a container I want to keep like this one, we'll just let it sit down there for a while as kind of something for people to look at, especially this time of year. It's fun to look at different things for a little bit of inspiration. So anyway, that's probably where we will take this. But anyway, if you guys give this a try and you try to make a little fairy house out of things out in your garden, I would sure love to see what you guys come up with. So tag me on Instagram in particular. That's where I will see it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one.